All right, thank you very much. Wherever you're watching us from, this Facebook Live. Of course, it is a Facebook town hall meeting, of course, organized by the International Republican Institute as part of ongoing engagements to engage Gambians on the ongoing review of the draft constitution, of course, work by the CRC. And today I have with me Honorable Sulayman Saho of Central Badibu and Ansumana Kamara, who will be joining us to discuss about the draft constitution. We already know the progress. The process has already advanced, and hopefully very soon the draft constitution will be presented to the National Assembly by next month. Honorable Saho and Ansumana, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aliu. Thank you.
Well, Honorable, I know you must have been following the issue of the draft constitution. But firstly, can you just give us a brief statement about the importance of this draft constitution to you?
Thank you very much, Aliu. This draft constitution, I think, is timely, and this is the constitution of the Gambian people. This constitution is part of campaign promises, is part of the things that Gambian people are expecting since 2016 when we changed the government. So, and I believe this constitution is going to shape our democratic, values and our future as a country. So I think this constitution is in the right step, in the right direction to ensure that democracy prevails in the Gambia. I see it as the constitution is going to be the constitution of the people, where fundamental rights are enshrined, where political pluralism will be promoted, and it's a constitution, which I believe everybody had a say in the drafting.
All right, Ansumana, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Aliu.
Well, I know so many people are following us live on Kerfatu, and then certainly there will be comments on posts surrounding the draft constitution. But then, just to set down the rules, I mean, we really have to be very disciplined in the way we post our comments, and of course to accommodate each other. The constitution is a document that is very important to this country in the sense that it's going to guide how the country is going to be governed, knowing the fact that it is very important in running the country. So in today's program, we are going to focus, of course, on two critical areas. That is the National Assembly and, of course, the executive, the powers given to the president and all that, and his executive. Mr. Saho, before we go any further, because we know that the role of the president is very important as far as the constitution is concerned. First and foremost, what's your opinion on the powers given to the president under the current constitution? Honorable, are you there? Hello? It seems we've lost connection with the National Assembly.
Yeah, Aliu, I think it seems we lost the honorable, but let me just give a quick comment on what he's already said.
Okay,
basically, yeah, basically for me, I would say that this is one of the most progressive constitutions that I have seen myself. This is something that is so important for the fact that, I keep telling people that this is what we refer to as the People's Constitution. The approach that was used by the CRC, especially that has to do with the consultations, having been done here in the Gambia and even going out to the diaspora to seek for what the people would want to see in the Constitution is really very progressive. And, looking at what is in the draft itself, you would also understand that these are actually things that have been said by many people. Okay, I would take an example from myself. I work for an organization that had a project with UNDP and that had a project with UNDP, and basically we went around the country and we were able to meet with over 10,000 young people throughout this country. Most of the things that we said during the course of our consultations, when you open the draft, these are some of the things that you would see. We did not only stop in that. We hired a constitutional lawyer who is currently the Minister of Justice to, help us change some of those things into a way that will fit, the language of the constitution. And when we saw the final draft, we were so amazed. Although we might not get at least the 100% of what was discussed, but at least we would say that at 90% of things that were discussed with the young people of this country were embedded in the draft constitution. So basically, for me, I would tell people that this is so progressive. It's something that is really good, and it's an excellent document.
And so it seems we have the Honorable back. Honorable Saho.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just a quick one. I was just asking, as what is your opinion with regards to the powers given to the president under the current constitution? If you look at section 88 of the draft constitution, it highlighted so many things that the president has powers to do. Of course, it includes, giving direction and, control over affairs of the state as a manner not inconsistent with this constitution. Do you agree that, the president should be given these powers?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ansuman. We must acknowledge the fact that separation of power must exist, and we must have checks and balances. The president cannot have absolute power. The president must have a limited power, and those powers are going to be, they are going to be checked, or they are going to be monitored by other organs of the state, because we have the three organs of the state: the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. So if you give all the powers to the president can abuse those powers. At the end of the day, we will not, get what we want as a country. So therefore, the president should be given power, but not absolute powers. So the powers that has been in this constitution, as far as I'm concerned, they are good to go with the president. So the legislature and other arms will have other powers also to check. So there we can work as a government. But if you give absolute power to the president can abuse it at the end of the day. What are we going to see? Then we are going to see constitutional, problems in the country. So, and the constitution is the supreme book. So that's why, for me, as far as I'm concerned, the powers that are given to the president in this new draft, they are okay with me.
Yeah, but if you look at it, Ansuma, do you want to come in here?
Yes, I want to agree with the honorable that there must be a separation of power, because if you talk about democracy, this is one of the fundamental principles. There is no way that you can have majority, or let's say give an absolute power to the president. That would actually lead to dictatorship. And one thing that I really love, especially about some of the functions that are given, or mandates that are given to the different arms of the government in the draft constitution, is, I would say that at least power had now belonged to the people. Like if you look at the functions or the roles that are being given to the National Assembly, for example, is something that is key, because the National Assembly becomes direct representative of the people. So the work that they do is so paramount that they need to get those powers so they could execute it without any fear or favor. So
Yeah,
if
but
you give those...
Ansuma, allow me to come in. Because if you look at the Constitution, there are certain powers that are given to the president that the president can implement without consulting anybody. And you have other powers that he must seek confirmation from the National Assembly or other bodies. For example, it is saying under section 110.2, the president shall, within 14 days of assuming office, appoint a vice president. He doesn't need to consult as far as this one is concerned, or seek any approval from the parliament. And of course, it includes reassigning a minister or appointing a minister. Of course, yes. No, reassigning a minister or remove a minister, because if he is to appoint, then he has to take the consent of the parliament. So, Honorable, do you think these are powers that the president should have without seeking parliament approval? For example, appointing a vice president?
Yeah, it depends on the country's democratization process, or it depends on the system that the country is practicing. Do you understand? In presidential system, will be deferred from that of the parliamentary system. So in parliament, in some countries, it's possible where the vice president and the president will be elected at the same time. But in other constitutions, the power is given to the president to do that. For me, I don't have any problem with that. But what I believe in is like ministers and other heads of institutions, parliament must approve. Parliament must go through their documents and peruse it and make a good selection. You understand? Because the president might, appoint somebody who is his favor, but the person might not be able to do the job as expected from the Gambian people. So for him to appoint the vice president, I don't have a problem with that. But I believe that the parliament should be very firm, to look at certain appointments.
Yeah, because that is catered for the
In the draft constitution. Now that is subjected to debate when we come to parliament. That is subjected to debate when when the draft comes before us. I think members can still, if members still wish
example,
that it
because
is good. Are you getting me?
yes, I'm getting you. You can go ahead.
What I'm saying is, that also is subjected to scrutiny. When the draft comes before us, members are at liberty to look at it, whether it's in the spirit of scrutiny or in the good spirit of having a competent and reliable vice president. Then we can debate on it. But what I believe in such important positions, it must go through parliamentary vetting. Parliamentary vetting is good in any democracy.
Certainly, Honorable, let me just make reference to the draft constitution. I mean,
Yes, Ali, I would definitely want to.
and Sumana, it seems your connection is, I'm not getting you.
Yes, yeah, I was going to say that for the appointment of the vice president, the president may do that, and that is okay with me too. But having to appoint ministers, for example, that has to go through the scrutiny of the National Assembly. Then, if this minister, for example, done something wrong and is supposed to be maybe redeployed or taken to somewhere else or being removed, this also has to go through the scrutiny of the same National Assembly. Maybe the minister during cabinet meetings or whatsoever must have said something that didn't go well with the president, and that is in the that is in the interest of the state. So if such things are being done, the president cannot just get up and then, overnight and say that the minister has to go. The National Assembly that actually, do the confirmation of the appointment of that particular minister must be put into the fray for them to understand that, okay, this is what has to go. It doesn't have to be just the president getting up, and don't just get rid of the minister
Honorable?
like that. People need to know what exactly the minister
Yeah.
does. Honorable, I don't know. I don't
Yes.
know what you say about that.
No, I agree with Ansumana for that point, because we need to.
I was
Somebody is breaking. I don't know whether it's me or you. Hello.
No, I think it's Aliu that is breaking. His network is bad.
Yes. Hello.
The
Hello. Are we all there? Hello. Hello.
Honorable, I think you can keep on talking. Aliu has issues with his network. Like, I made a submission, and
yes. So I think I concur with Aliu, of what he did mention. Like
on this draft constitution.
What I'm saying is,
and not only that, I think everybody has
the parliament, like what I said,
that
the parliament
important
need to
document, this national
look at
document,
this,
is
because
actually giving
we need
all the
to
attention
promote what is called as
importance.
we cannot just be firing ministers, reason not known. So, like, if they go through a vetting process, now, if, for example, they didn't perform or they do not perform up to expectation, then the parliament, if before they are fired, the parliament need to know, so that we will have what is called public, accountability. The public needs to know why A or B is fired from his position, so that others will not repeat it. So, but if we keep on, maintaining this culture of silence to say that we don't want to embarrass them, we don't want the public to know, I might also be appointed and making the same mistake. So I think, I'm in right. I support the view of Ansumana in that aspect to say that Parliament must be involved in appointments and revocation of appointment too. I did agree with him.
Yeah, the reason why I had to bring this point is because, like I keep telling people that if you ask me which organ of the government is the most important, and people will tell you that all organs are equally important. But if you look at the functions of the National Assembly, you would come to understand that they stand out as the most important organ of the government. Simply for the fact that whatever is being done in this country has to do with the laws, and this is the work of the National Assembly. So therefore, if you would want to appoint a minister and you would have to consult the National Assembly for confirmation, why would you remove that minister without undergoing this? As honorable minister here with us, that once the draft is gazetted and tabled before you at the National Assembly, when you would have to go for the second and the third reading, these are some of the points that you should be able to bring up so your people can look at it. Hello, yes.
Right.
Yes, Honorable, just I was talking about the pass that is given to the president, but of course subjected to scrutiny, of course, confirmation by the National Assembly. It is talking about the appointment of ministers, that this thing has to be done with the confirmation of the National Assembly. We also see the appointments of the Independent Boundaries and Electoral Commission, which at least it's saying after 60% of the National Assembly was approved. Are you in support of this idea?
Again, I'm not hearing, please.
Yes, I was just trying to make a reference to the draft constitution. It is talking about the appointment of ministers. This must be approved by the National Assembly before the appointments come into effect. And not only that, even the appointment of members of the Independent Boundaries and Electoral Commission, which is now IEC, which we know the name is going to be changed.
You mean an independent commission for appointments? You mean?
I'm talking about the appointment of members. The president can appoint members of the Independent Electoral Commission, which is now changed under the current constitution as Independent Boundaries and Electoral Commission. Which this thing must be subjected to Parliament.
Yeah, I think it's all boiled down to ensuring that we have responsible and accountable institutions.
Approval of having at least 60% of the.
I'm not hearing you well. I don't know whether my network is having problem. Are you getting me well? Hello, Aliu.
Yeah, Honorable, I think the problem is from Aliu's end. He probably has issues with his network, and that is Gambia for you.
Yes. Thank you for that. I'm scared. I want to say I'm in Balibu. The network might not be good.
No, I think your network is good. I'm really surprised that Badibu is having such a very good network right now.
It seems, Ansuman, are you back?
But
yes,
he's moving up,
Yeah, I think Honorable is gone, but he's also back.
Hello, Aliu.
Yes, Honorable, it seems your connection
Hello,
is
Aliu.
good. Yes, I'm getting you, Honorable.
Yeah, I was not getting your last part. I didn't know what you really trying to make up. Can you please go over there?
Yeah. What I was saying, I'm talking about some of the powers that is given to the president, but of course subjected to scrutiny and confirmation by either the National Assembly or the independent bodies. For example, it is saying the appointment of ministers, must undergo parliamentary scrutiny, and of course the appointment of members to the now, as we speak, is called the IEC, which is now changed to Independent Boundaries and Electoral Commission. I was just asking, what's your opinion on this?
Yes, I think I'm in support of this because IBEC be a body that should be independent. They should be independent from any control. So if the executive has a hand in selecting either the chairman or the commission members, they might influence the decision that they are going to make tomorrow. So therefore, they need to be an independent body. I am in full support of that. That body should not be nominated by the president because you cannot be a player and a referee at the same time. You cannot be a judge and the jury, as the saying goes. So the appointment should be totally independent.
Ansman, is there anything that you want to add on to what Honorable has just said? Because it seems Honorable is in support of these provisions in the draft constitution.
Support, of the provision that is in the draft. The thing is, I think we also need to understand that it is very paramount for the National Assembly to have that function of having to help in the scrutiny of people that are being appointed, especially at position that has to do with our ministerial post. Having to bring them and checking if actually, some of the things that they say about checking their characters and some of their achievements is really good, than having to be selected by the president to go and man such positions. We have seen in many instances that, the president would keep on hiring and firing ministers. So if such appointments would have to undergo some National Assembly scrutinies, that is really going to help, at least to save our country from hiring and firing our ministers. So I am really in support of the provisions that are in the draft constitution, that even people that are supposed to go into the independent boundaries, that is the IEC, for example, would have to go through the scrutiny of the National Assembly of people with great characters, people with ethics and all that. So I am fully in support of it.
Appointment of permanent secretaries. This also has to be, has to be confirmed by the Public Service Commission recommendation. So it appears very interesting. It seems major appointments now under this draft constitution really have.
Hello?
And just as we are talking about the issue of the hiring and firing in the past, and of course, even as we speak, because
Hello, Ali.
under the current constitution, this one is yet to act. But then, I mean, if you look at the issue of the permanent secretaries, it's something that's very interesting. Having permanent secretaries also, their appointments, of course, has to be under the Public Service Commission's.
Yeah.
Hello, Ali. Yes. Yes, I'm hearing now.
Yes, we were talking about the appointment of permanent secretaries, which is also now,
Yes.
it has to be on the recommendation of the Public Service Commission. And not only that, even the appointments of the chief executive officers of state-owned enterprises.
Yes,
All
Ali,
this thing has to go under
hello.
some sort of scrutiny.
Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead, Honorable.
Yes, Ali, I think
Yes,
that
you can go ahead, Honorable. I'm hearing you.
the permanent secretary is also being going under kind of vetting. I think is also very good, Ali, because as I said, Gambia is not an island, and Gambia also need to move. If you go to countries in the sub-region that are trying to raise their bar as far as democracy is concerned, good governance, they also have these yardsticks, and they also have these measures that they apply. So why not Gambia? Why are we behind? So I think that's why I said there is no constitution that is 100% good, but as far as this constitution is concerned, I think it's a good constitution that we can
Honorable, your
fine tune along the line, whatever we are not comfortable with, but as a constitution that is there to promote ownership.
Yeah, Aliu, let me just add on to what the honorable is trying to portray here, that it is also good that people of such positions, would have to also undergo vetting. This is also something that is key, considering the positions that they are manning, and also looking at, taking reference from other countries, looking at the way they appoint such public officials. Gambia should not be an exception. So if, for example, we have this in other countries and it's a good practice and it's been copied by the Gambia, I am fully in support of it. Permanent secretaries has to be people, because these are technicians. They do most of the works of a minister. The minister there mostly would come and do the signatures for some documents and all that at the ministry. So having people that have the know-how and trying to know what exactly that they are able to do through vetting is something that is key. You cannot just select a permanent secretary and just have him at the ministry. Maybe the person could be different, to be a friend to the minister. So having it to undergo public scrutiny is something that I think is really very, very key. So I am also in support of it. They have to undergo a vetting, So if the PSC is supposed to do that, I am okay with that.
There's also a new element that is talking about the issue of declaring war and make peace, and of course, deployment of troops outside the country. So meaning even this thing now, it has to be approved by the National Assembly. So it is no more about just honorable.
No, even I think even if I'm right, even in the 1997 Constitution, if a government should declare things of that nature, it has to come through the Parliament.
But
if the
we also
president
see
should declare it.
Even the issue of the deployment of troops outside the country.
Yeah, so if that happens anywhere, that's going to be a violation.
Because this also requires the approval of the National Assembly.
Yes, it should be.
Now let's look at the members of the Judicial Service Commission. Under the draft, I'm quoting, it is saying, although the draft constitution says the president has power to appoint members of the Judicial Service Commission, most of those are to be members of the commission by virtue of office they hold. Example, Chief Justice and Solicitor General and others are nominated by Supreme Court and Gambia Bar Association.
Yes.
The members of the Judicial Service Commission.
Yes. Yes, I think that one I'm okay with that, because the courts, the Supreme Courts will know those people, at least with their background, they'll be able to make a good selection. It's not an individual who is making a decision now, but it's a body, that is a recognized body now making. They might have their criteria, I know, in selecting who should be part of that.
And Sumana?
Yeah, I am also okay with that. I'm also okay with that. I think that is a very, very good provision, and so it's good.
Yes, because here it is indicating that the appointment and the removal of the Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service, this also has to be on the recommendation and confirmation of the National Assembly and the Public Service Commission.
Yes, good.
So it is no more just about appointing the Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service just like that,
exactly.
or removing them or hiring them.
Exactly. Yes, our able host. This is where we don't want, executive, as I said at the beginning, to have absolute power, or the president. So now you can see, people are going to be appointed based on merits. Do you understand? Based on performance. So it's not only, I want Ansumana because Ansumana was my university mate, or we are all brought up in the same community, to give him a position that he doesn't deserve. So we come in a situation where anybody, appointed to a position, you must get the relevant qualification. So it's not kind of based on family crazy or whatsoever kind of, or nepotism or favoritism, but it's going to be based on meritocracy.
Yeah, Honorable, I think I would want to agree with you again. This is why I keep telling people that this draft is definitely a progressive one. Although
stay connected as we anticipated.
Okay, yeah.
Honorable is back. Honorable.
Yeah, Aliu, I just want to chip in here. There are a few points that the Honorable mentioned that we definitely need to look at. And I think these are some of the reasons why when we started, I said that this draft is definitely a progressive one. Now, looking at the way that for example, the issue of the Secretary General having to undergo a scrutiny at the National Assembly, and also if the person is supposed to be removed, again has to go under the same process. I think this will also give room for people to discourage the issue of nepotism, having people to be appointing people that are so close to them. This is common in most of the African countries. And as a result, it has actually crumbled, the progress of many African countries. So what the Honorable says, I want to also agree with him that, having to appoint friends, having to appoint people that are so close to you because maybe you were brought up from the same area would be discouraged. So I also buy into the idea, and it's a yes from me. I really love the idea of, having it to undergo a scrutiny before it happens. So this is good.
Good.
Look up things. The power of the president is slightly limited under the current draft.
Pardon?
Aliu, I just want to say this again, that if you would want to give more powers to a president like what we have in the 1997 Constitution, it automatically makes the president a dictator. This is something that we don't need. We need a democratic state, and then to have that, power has to be given to the people, not to just a single person. So giving more powers to the National Assembly and limiting that of the president is like giving powers to the people. The National Assembly is a direct representation of the people. So personally, to me, this is not about reducing the powers of the president. This is about buying into the ideas of democratic principles, and it's okay with me.
Yeah. Hello.
Honorable.
Hello. Yes, Alu,
Yes,
I think
Honorable,
what
I'm getting it.
Ansuman, the last statement of Ansuman should be well understood by every Gambian. This is not a competition between legislature and the executive, or this is not a competition between legislators and Adama Barrow. This is about the future of the Gambia. Do you understand? This is about generation unborn. So we should not be, short-sighted to focus on only the presidency now. It's not about that. The constitution is about generation to come. So we must comprehend that as bona fide citizens of this country. We must understand that we are making the future of Gambian people. It's not about the president who is there
And I
now,
think
and it's not about Sulayman Saho as a name of Central Badibu now. The laws that we are making for the future. No condition is permanent.
and I think that's why
It should be
that's why
well
at the
clear to the
beginning
Gambian people.
and that's why the CRC has to had to go around the whole country and even outside the
Exactly.
country to engage
Exactly.
Gambians to their
I
opinions
think
and
we
so
have to
because
applaud
this
the
about
effort that they have done. They have made a consultation historic in the
yeah.
Gambia. I was surprised when I heard some people saying that this draft constitution is photocopied from Kenyan version. It's an insult to the Gambian people. It's an insult. We have to criticize constructively. We have to because in writing constitution, you have to borrow ideas from people. You have to consult treaties, conventions, customs. Do you understand? You have
Okay,
to
you're back.
make reference to other constitutions as well. So and I'm surprised we have people in this country who will go around to say, because why are we saying all those things because of an individual, because of Sulayman Saho? No, the country is bigger than me and is bigger than you. Though I'm not saying that everything in the constitution is 100% good. I have my reservations when it comes to citizenship, for example, or when it comes to not citizenship, but when it comes to qualification to become a president. I have my reservations, or even as a national assembly member, I have my reservations. But that doesn't mean that the constitution, the work that they have done, should go in vain.
Yeah, honorable. I like we all have our
Yes,
reservations. Like you have yours. This constitution might not be 100% good.
yes,
Like if you ask me, I will tell you that okay, my reservation would definitely lie on the qualifications of a person that has to go into the National Assembly.
exactly, exactly,
I will tell people, for example, that the National Assembly becomes a very, very important arm of the government, considering the fact that the laws that has to govern, how the president rules is made by the National Assembly. The laws that the courts will use in adjudicating their cases is made by the National Assembly. So therefore, people that has to go into the National Assembly has to get a higher qualification than that of the president. At least a president would have advisors. The
exactly,
president will have ministers that he will work with. So if you would ask the president to get at least, let's say, a bachelor's degree or something that is equivalent or so, how about National Assembly members that are going to make our laws? You cannot
exactly,
get them from just
exactly,
grade to the National Assembly. We all have our
exactly,
reservations, and this needs to be looked
Yes,
exactly.
into. Yes.
allow me to comment because we are focusing on the executive and the National Assembly. And
Lan,
then thank God,
Yes.
you spoke about the importance of the National Assembly and then the need to have qualified individuals in that chamber. We look at honorable, honorable.
I think Honorable is complaining about his battery. I don't know.
And so, man, it seems only watching this live broadcast, of course, supported by Constitution, which is set to be presented for the.
Yeah. Ali, I think I heard him talking about his battery. I am not too sure about that, but
Assembly
it seems his battery is gone now.
Parliament, it is sent to the IEC for referendum, and then as I was saying, we just sent of the new draft constitution, what people think about it, and then we are glad that today we are joined on this discussion by Honorable Sulayman Saho of Central Badibu, and of course Ansumana Kamara, who is also joining us just to elaborate and discuss and brainstorm about these new elements. Of course, looking at some of the past of the president, the executive, not having the president, just hiring and firing anyhow he or she feels like. So everything has to undergo thorough scrutiny, which for many is really good for our democracy. And Sumana?
Yes. Hello, I am still here.
Yes. Okay, yes, it seems we are having problem with our connection.
Yeah, I think the honorable is gone. He was complaining about his battery,
I'm
understanding that he's currently at the
finding
farm. So
it very difficult, to keep honorable, here. I mean, you were talking about the issue of the National Assembly and then the need to have people who are qualified, who can really the responsibilities of the National Assembly under the current draft. It is quite many, and it of course include the enactment of legislation for the government of the Gambia, and to be debated in the Assembly among us. What is your take on the new responsibilities given to the National Assembly on current draft? For the
your network is breaking, Ali.
of the National Assembly. It also includes you are having a problem with your connection where you are. Are you back on now?
Yeah, I am here. I'm here.
Yes, wonderful. I was just trying to go through the roles of the National Assembly under the current draft constitution. Their responsibilities and powers. And before you were talking about the input, and I was just trying going to on this thing.
Um, yes, I think I am so very okay with the functions of the National Assembly, especially the ones that are being listed in the draft constitution. Uh, their powers are so good, and I think these are things that will actually make them work a lot. Well, we all understand that the main function of the National Assembly is to enact legislation for the governance of the Gambia and to review such legislation
Exactly.
from time to time as the need as the team assemblies in different parts of the world would do, and also adding some functions to them, to the already existing ones, and also removing the bad ones that they will probably be having, like doing a scrutiny on the appointments of certain public officials. These are things that will actually put the National Assembly on their feet, and they will do the work as expected. So for me, going through the draft and looking at the functions and the roles that are being given to the National Assembly, I think it's really, really good, and it will also help them to check on the activities and the powers of the other arms of the government to see if they are actually function in the right way or not. Suppose they are not, there are provisions in the Constitution as to the steps that they should take to ensure that we get to the Gambia that we have always envisaged, the Gambia that we've always wanted, that is a democratic Gambia. So the functions and the powers of the National Assembly, to me, from the draft constitution, for person, these are my own views. I think
Yes, Antumana. Ansumana.
yes.
Yeah. Are you done?
Yeah, I am.
Wonderful. Yeah, because I mean, we're still looking at the responsibility and the parts of the parliament. And then it seems, there seems to be a bigger responsibility now under the current draft. Because it is saying, okay, for example, the National Assembly has been given the responsibility to allocate more financial resources to many public agencies and programs such as the youth schemes. I mean, there seems to be some more added responsibilities for the National Assembly under the draft.
Yes, Ali, I think we also need to understand that most of these National Assembly members lives with the people and they come to know more about the activities of the people and of course some of these public enterprises. They to some extent they probably have engagements with most public enterprises and people all the time. So having them, given that responsibility of allocating funds to them again is something that is key. And let's also remember the National Assembly is a whole lot of people. And this is where, when issues are being tabled, they have to undergo debates, they have to undergo scrutinies. So they have many good brains there who can look at issues, understand them before they give it their final verdict. So giving them such functions would also make people understand. Because I think one thing that is also key is we will understand that public enterprises, public bodies would come to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly is also open to the public. So if the National Assembly should work in for your let's say your budgets to be adjusted, you will also report back to the National Assembly. So this will also limit the number of corruptions that we have in public bodies. So this is something that is key. Giving that function to the National Assembly again is something that is good, and it will make not only the National Assembly work but also public enterprises, and then we will again get to the Gambia that we want. Hello, Aliu. Are you here with us?
It appears the current internet in
Yeah, for the viewers, these are people that are following this program. This is the IRI draft constitution project, and it has to do with us having to look at what is in the draft constitution. So in the
I would
show,
say.
we have Aliu as the host, and I think he just lost his connection. And we also
Answer,
have with us Honorable, yes, Aliu, welcome back.
answer, yes, your connection is really misbehaving. I don't know.
No, I think it's from your end.
No, 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 not here. My connection is quite good. I am.
All right, okay.
So
Yeah,
yes, as I said, we are just trying to discuss. Okay, MS has joined us now. MS.
yes.
Okay, it's good to have you now. It seems we are still struggling with Honorable Saho. It seems his connection is quite very bad where he is in Badebo. MS.
Okay.
MS, yeah,
What
MS,
is
yeah,
happening?
welcome.
Is the internet? Yes, I'm getting you. I'm getting you. Yeah. Thank you so much. It seems
MS,
Aliu is not working. Aliu's internet is not working.
yeah, I think
Uh,
it's been a problem from
yes.
his end.
I'm so
Yes, yes, MS.
okay. Are you getting me? Are you
Yes, I
getting
am.
me? Are you getting me?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, and then thank you for having me. Though it was just a short notice, however, I have to step in.
Yes, MS. MS, you just find us. We are discussing about the powers and the responsibilities of the National Assembly, and then we're talking about some of the powers given to the Parliament in terms of trying to allocate more finance to public agencies and such as the youth schemes. What is your take on this?
Oh, thank you very much, Aliu, for that. I think it's important, definitely, to understand the importance of these schemes because the young people, as we said, they constitute 64% of the population, if not more than that. And if you can say Gambia is a young, youthful population, and then it also has youths have the majority when it comes to voting as well, and then they are more vulnerable when you talk about unemployment, when you talk about the issue of irregular migration, when you talk about crimes, when you talk about political mobilization. Young people are engaged. It depends on how you engage them. They are either engaged meaningfully or negatively. It depends on the environment that is available. So it is important to give prominence to the youth. We've seen the new constitution has empower or has clearly stated the rights of young people, which is the right of youth, and also keep and also um, you know you know and also gives prominence to young youth empowerment through giving like by looking at some of the clauses that are stipulated in the constitution. It has given a relevance to give that create that enabling environment for young people to excel in their various walks of life, which is very important, which was not in the 1997 constitution. If you look at also the state now, instead of saying giving excuse, now it is a mandate for them to give what rightfully belongs to the young people. And then if the constitution comes into effect, just 3 years, the state is given 3 years to ensure that all these institutions are in place. So definitely, it is the constitution is progressive with regards to the young people, and also my take on the political participation. One thing I observe is the constitution. Yes, it has clearly stated the participation of the young people through the political parties by stating that political parties should give 10% of their candidates to young people.
Yeah,
But
to the young people.
there is a question on that. How are they going to go about it? How is the state ensuring that this thing is going to be a reality? Because political parties are given that free will to put up their 10%. For instance, if Nyamina, obviously probably party X knows that Nyamina obviously they don't have power in Nyamina, they can just put in just to fill the gap. We've seen
Exactly.
severally what is happening in some of these, like in the local government act, a replica of what was happening. For instance, it was stipulated that interest groups should be part of those nominated, but now we've seen those things have been going through partisan lines just to fill the gaps. They would just bring someone who is not going to represent the young people, but just to say that we've brought someone, just to fulfill a legal requirement. So there is the implementation. Definitely that stage is definitely questionable. And also when it comes to the National Assembly, why not you create that avenue where seats are permanently given to the young people, like the 14 seats for women,
Mhm.
14 seats for women, that is obviously for women, because no one is going to contest, no other no man or male is going to contest against that. It is already there. But why not? And also the disabled people, the disability are also giving at least 2 seats. Why not the young people? I think it's important that definitely it is strengthened. But overall, the constitution is progressive when it comes to issue of young people in the Gambia.
Yeah,
The
I,
draft
I,
that the members of the public, they have the right to question, the National Assembly, perhaps, for not doing what they're supposed to do. Something very interesting here, MS and Ansumano. Petitioning the National Assembly for not doing what they're
Yes,
supposed to do.
let me come into that. Ali, I think that is also another very, very important point that has been highlighted in the constitution of the draft constitution of the Gambia. The National Assembly, I think people should understand that are going to be people that will be elected by the people, that is the masses. So whatever they do must reflect the aspirations of the people that they represent. So if they are not doing their work rightly, this is where accountability comes into place. You have to hold them account for whatever that they are doing at their workplaces. So for the public to be given that mandate to be able to petition them is something that is very, very democratic. It's something that, you know, people should be proud of. And I will agree with MS when he says that overall the draft constitution is a progressive one. And as much as you know, the constitution is giving you the mandate to hold your public officials accountable, then that is a good one, Aliu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we think.
Okay.
Yes, MS, you
Go
can
ahead.
continue. You can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to highlight some of the points that definitely Ansumana made mention of about the petition, which is very key. If you look at the 1997 Constitution, there is nothing like a recall. You know, it just highlighted that recall should be, National Assembly can be recalled, but it has to be subjected to an act of parliament, which has never come to place. We've not seen that act of parliament that can strengthen that constitutional provision. So if you look at the new draft constitution, it has stipulated that members, can be petitioned by they can be recalled by
The
their own,
constituents.
elective, exactly, constituency. So I think it's important that we highlight, we have that, because if you look at the constitution, section um, 2, section 2 of the constitution, if I can quite vividly remember, it states that sovereignty lies in the hands of the people, from which all organs of government derives their authority. So then it means people people have the authority. People are the ones that are employing. They are the principal. When we talk about, in legal terminologies, they call people are the principal, and then the people who are elected are the agents. So they have to serve the interests of the people. So if people don't are not giving that power to recall, then it means that you're giving me power in one hand, with one hand, and then taking it with the other hand. So right now, if you look at the National Assembly, probably the only thing that we can talk about is where people can hold their National Assembly accountable is through the periodic elections. That is the only way where citizens can hold their elected representatives accountable. But why not, if your representative is not coming to your constituency? We've had some of the allegations that were brought forward to the National Assembly, where it was stated that some of the, I think there is a minister who said that National Assembly members, it's hard to see them in their constituency. And even if you talk to people, even us, we are from constituencies. How many times did we see our National Assembly members? That's questionable. So if we are not given that power to call our National Assembly members, then we have to sit for another 5 years to wait for our National Assembly members, because there is no platform where we can checkmate them. So I think this constitution is very progressive when it comes to that.
Yeah,
To
because
my
if you look at it, it is clearly stated in the drafts. Like if you go to section 144, it is saying members of the National
yeah.
Assembly have been directed to keep in touch with the constituents. Now,
Mhm.
consistent failure by a member to keep his or her constituency informed of decisions taken by the National Assembly or persistent action from his or her constituency is a ground for recall of that member from the Assembly.
That's perfect.
Sorry, MS. Let me just chip in here. Now, let's take for example from the status quo recently in the Gambia. you will have National Assembly members who lives in the combos and they are representing the people of the province. They live in the combos here. You know, you ask yourself, how many times does these people even go to their constituencies to be seen? Recently, let me move a little bit away from the National Assembly and look at some of the councillors that we have. We have a community engagement in Sierra in one of the communities. We were informed by the members of the community that their councillor is a taxi driver that lives in the combos. You know, how do you expect those people to be in direct consultation, in touch with their people? So it is always going to be very key that National Assembly members have offices in their constituencies. When their people have issues, they can come back to that office and ask them, tell them this is what we want, but it's not happening. But how many National Assembly members even live in their constituencies? How many times do they go to their constituencies? So if there is a provision in the new constitution that they should be in constant communications with their people, that is also progressive, MS.
It is. I think this is why people should understand the importance of this draft constitution. You know, it's totally different from from the 1997 constitution. So that I think these are the progressive clauses that people should understand, that this constitution is now giving power back to the people, and also making sure that their elected representatives are working, because this is why we are paying them. These are the salaries, taxpayers money. And then these are representatives that should speak on our behalf, that should give us that should legislate on our behalf, that should do oversight functions on our behalf, and that should also represent the people, the whole Gambia as a constituent on our behalf. So this is very important, I think. The recall, I love the section which is vividly clear. The section 144. If you read it, it has already even made mention of how members can even be recalled. I think and also some of the why members can be recalled. You know, if you have found gross misconduct, and also failure to keep his or her constituents informed of decisions taken by the National Assembly. This is interesting. Definitely, if you look at section 144, subsection C, is very, very, very progressive. Definitely, I
Yeah,
think also, yeah.
because the fact of the matter is that the National Assembly, we all know, is very important. And then these are people who are giving oversight functions. If you look at the current draft, I mean, the powers and the response of the Parliament, they have these oversight functions, by holding the executive accountable. The Assembly can summon the Vice President or any minister to appear before them. So what do you think, what's your opinion about these oversight functions given to the Parliament under the current draft?
Okay. My opinion on the oversight of the
The
National
oversight
Assembly.
functions, having the powers, to hold the executive accountable, summoning the vice president of the
Yeah,
parliament
yeah,
and
yeah,
even ministers
yeah,
to respond to questions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think this constitution, first of all, has put in, like, ways, clear ways where check and balance, in a democratic society, enhancement of check and balance within a democratic society. If you look at, first of all, we've seen that the speaker is indirectly or directly appointed by the president. That is obvious, because the speaker is part of the. I am talking about this current constitution. Look at the 5 nominated members. The president also will have privilege or mandate to even select, to even tell them that, okay, within you, these are the people. This is the one that I want to be the speaker. This is the one I want to be the deputy speaker. So through that, you have your influence over the others. So I believe, first of all, it's a problem. My connection. I don't know what.
Yes, Ansumana. I'm not getting Ansumana. I don't know. Yes.
Yes, just want to agree with MS, even though he had issues with his
Yeah,
connection.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes, Ansumana, you can
Yes.
proceed.
Yeah, what I am trying to say is, having to give the National Assembly that oversight functions that you've just mentioned, and especially the way
Yeah.
it's been portrayed in the Constitution is really very, very good and also very, very progressive. Of course, our ministers has to be answerable to someone. You cannot just leave them work like that. And
Can,
they cannot just be answerable to the president alone, just because they are being appointed by the president, or maybe they are being recommended by the president, and subjected to the National Assembly confirmation as in the draft constitution. It is also very key that
exactly.
when there are issues that are arising, especially, let's give an example of the current situation of the Gambia. We live in a very, very, let's say we live in trying times, that the Minister of Health, for example, when it was draft constitution, can be summoned by the National Assembly to come and give deliberations on, or maybe updates for people to know what is happening. And the National Assembly will have that mandate to be asking questions to ensure that when things are not going in the right way, they are being addressed by the National Assembly. Because once the minister is answerable to the National Assembly, that means that the minister is also answerable to the people. That National Assembly member would be having constant touch with the people when they lay their concerns. These concerns should be laid to the different ministries, and the ministers are summoned to the National Assembly. So I think this is a good thing, and it's definitely very progressive.
Quite interesting, MS.
Yeah. 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 Sorry for that. Probably I'm in my room right now, so probably I don't know what is happening. And currently, we know that the internet is a
Yeah,
problem.
it's quite.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah. What we are saying, what I was saying is, I think I quite agree with Ansumana. The constitution is very progressive when it comes to the National Assembly, the oversight functions of the National Assembly. The National Assembly, we know that definitely they are people's representative, and they are given the mandate to check the executive, that is the execution. Even if you look at the budget formulation process, instead of now giving the National Assembly that tight time, like just two weeks, which is stipulated in the current constitution, in the 1997 constitution. Now they're giving, I think, if I can quite remember vividly, is now 60 days, the process itself. So you are giving more time to scrutinize the budget. And also, looking at the ministry, the issue of the ministry, the ministerial positions we've seen, looking at our trend, Gambia has been seeing a fluctuation when it comes to, having ministers today, and they're hired, fired, hired, fired, hired, fired. And also, we've seen ministers that are not, qualified to execute, a specific duty, though ministerial positions mostly you can quite agree they are political appointments, but it has to also deal with policies, because ministers are policy makers at the cabinet level. If you are not conversant with the area that you are appointed at, it's a problem, and then which will retard development. So I think this constitution, one thing it has already addressed is picking just anyone as a minister. I think the scrutiny aspect of it, but also ministers has 14 days. You can see how fair the constitution is.
Mhm.
It has not giving the power overall to the to the National Assembly alone. So ministers they have 14 days to scrutinize and appoint. If in drag and stuff, now after that, the elapse of the 14 days, then the that minister probably will automatically become a minister. So you can see that no one arm of government is giving an absolute power. You have
Absolute
to
power
work
over the order.
in Exactly. You have to work in principles. You cannot politicize anything. So you are giving a time frame to ensure that whatever you do is justifiable by law.
Quite
Yeah, MS,
interesting. That just, just to remind our
Aliu,
viewers that this is a town hall meeting, on the draft constitution, the 2020 draft constitution, of course supported by IRI, and then I'm joined by MS Bar and Sumana Kamara. We were earlier on joined by Honorable Sulayman Saho of Central Badebo, but due to internet connection from where he is, he has to leave us. Yes, Ansumana, you wanted to
yes.
say something.
Yes, I just wanted to say this, that if and only I can have it from the National Assembly members that are going to look at the draft constitution before it is passed at a referendum. One thing that I would want to push to them is that, in fact, for the appointment of ministers, if the president is supposed to make a proposal to be presented to the National Assembly for scrutiny, let them give at least 3 names. So these 3 people will face the National Assembly, and after scrutiny by the National Assembly, the best out of the 3 would be taken into one of the ministerial positions. This is my personal take on the issue, so I don't know how other people would see this submission.
Quite interesting. MS, do you share the same view as Mano?
Yeah, quite interesting. Quite interesting. Yeah, the onus lies on the National Assembly.
Yeah, Asmano?
Yes, Aliu, yes. I think we lost MS again.
We lost him, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my submission. If and only that I can get it from the National Assembly members. These are some of the things that we can put in the draft for people to look at and see whether it is a good take. But I think personally this is something that is key. If I am at the National Assembly today and the draft is being tabled before me, I'll personally make this proposal. Because if you bring in 3 people, you would even understand that even if the president has proposed a friend to be presented to the National Assembly for confirmation, that friend might not be the best out of the 3. And that if the president wants to, let's say, fire that person, it also has to undergo a scrutiny, and we deserve to know the crimes committed by ministers that led to their disqualification or removal. We definitely need to know it. But the president cannot just come up just one night and say that this particular person, based on the powers vested in me as president of the Gambia, that I am removing this so and so person. Things doesn't work that way. We need to know what are some of the things that are being done by these public officials. If it is worth removing them, they can go. So having it to also undergo the same process like the way they were appointed is something that is key. But again, if you would want to appoint people to different ministerial positions, you need to give us a list of at least 3 people for people to choose the best out of after a scrutiny.
That's your own submission as far as this draft is concerned, of course, regarding the appointments and and removal of ministers and other appointees.
Yes.
Yes, moving forward, we are still looking at the oversight powers given to the Parliament under the draft constitution. Just making some references here. It is saying under the provision of Section 242, no withdrawal can take place from the Consolidated Revenue Fund without the authority of the Constitution or an act of the National Assembly, including the Appropriation Act and Supplementary Appropriation Act. So, meaning, I mean, this constitution, as you alluded to, is very progressive. It seems to be very protective of Gambians and their interest, provided it is respected.
Yes, I think they've learned from what had happened in the past, especially in the Gambia. So to me, I think it will also be very, very ideal that this even has to apply to our local government areas and municipalities. That anything that has to do with public funds, removing funds from some of those, those accounts or whatever, has to undergo certain processes. No one person, let me repeat this, no one person should just get up and give authorities of spending public funds like that. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You know, the way the National Assembly are selected to do this work is the same way that the president is selected to elected to do the same thing. So no one person should just get up and decide as to how public funds should be spent. This has to go through a scrutiny. So you again, agreeing with me that this is a very progressive draft, is something that is very, very key. I've read it, and anytime that I read it, and one thing about it, the beauty about the draft constitution is that it is written in a very, very simplified language. You read it once you understand the concept, the content of the draft. Aliu.
It seems MS is back.
Yes.
Yeah.
MS,
I'm
what
struggling
is
with
happening in
internet in my
Banjul?
room. I would have.
Yeah, no, you are living in Banjul, so we
Exactly.
should just talk about living in Banjul.
MS. Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
were just,
I'm getting you.
yeah, we were talking about the issue of withdrawing from the the consolidated fund. I mean, as we used to see, going by previous commissions. I mean, it seems this thing has also come to protect what belongs to Gambians. Like any sort of withdrawal, has to come to the National Assembly. So meaning the president or anyone cannot just jump and give authorization for something to be withdrawn. MS.
Yeah. I think it is even in the 1997
Constitution, yeah. And so, man, it seems
Yes.
we are still
No.
struggling with MS.
I think there is something
Yeah,
wrong with Banjul. I don't
I
know.
mean,
I don't
you
know.
are in the city and then you are still struggling to, get a very good connection. Quite unfortunate. Yes, I mean, Ansumana, we are still talking about the issue of, this revenue and all whatnot. Under the draft, it is indicating that even tax waivers have to be approved by the National Assembly. Quite interesting, right?
Yes. Yes. I
So
I I,
meaning
I really love.
no one can just and say, okay, I have waived tax for Mr. X or this company without the approval of the Parliament.
Yeah, I think that is also key. We have just recently witnessed the closure of Banjul Breweries. This has been a company that lived in the Gambia for a very, very long time. Let's say, for example, if this had also undergone through the scrutiny of the National Assembly, maybe they might have wished to settle things out, with these people, considering the number of people that are working with that company. And we were made to understand. I am not too sure, but we were made to understand that all has to do with the tax that they've been paying. So sometimes there are certain things that you consider before certain entities leaves your country. So having to get the National Assembly taking that responsibility again of deciding as to whether a tax is supposed to be waived on a company or not is again going to be decided by the people, because the National Assembly is the people. These are the people that we see every day, and these are the people that we will be in touch with, as stipulated in the draft constitution. So definitely, this is also very, very progressive, and I like it. Aliu.
It appears to be very interesting, and then it seems to be very progressive, as you rightly mentioned. Let's proceed, and then we try to look at the budget oversight by the
Yeah.
National Assembly.
Aliu, I want to say something. I'm sorry that
Okay.
trying to regulate it. Okay, perfect. What happened is you consolidated withdrawal from the consolidated fund. If you look at section 151 of the draft constitution, it is there that no one shall be withdrawn, no money shall be withdrawn from the consolidated funds except to meet except that is except sorry in except it has been approved by the Auditor General, just to paraphrase it. If you look at section 151, section 3, and that we've seen it was a problem in the current constitution that over 23 years this thing has not been respected by the executive, and it is continuously happening for 23 years. And we know that the National Audit Office gave their independent, that is their full autonomy just recently, after 18 years, when the constitution came into play. So I believe, giving it to the National Assembly will make it more, it will give it more relevance. It's just like avoiding the past problems that has been happening, because it is there, and the executive is was not following it. And then, just look at section 151 sub 3. It's already there that no money should be withdrawn from the consolidated fund without the approval of the without certifying approving approval by the national, the auditor general. It's there, but giving it to the National Assembly will strengthen it, because the National Assembly has, I can say, has more oversight powers. Though the Auditor General's office is a statutory institution which is expected to be independent, but we know that probably over the years they have capacity gaps. But the National Assembly, I am sure, giving it to the National Assembly, it will be more strengthened, and then the executive will be much more careful to violate the constitution, violate, and then it will also minimize corruption. It will also minimize corruption, funds going in and out, and then it will also, strengthen the checks and balance, because we know that, funds, the consolidated fund is the heart of the nation. It is the heart of the nation where all government revenue is put into, like the Central Bank of the Gambia, where the custodians of the consolidated funds. So I believe this is very important. This is very key. Giving it to the National Assembly. That is what I wanted to say. It is in the current constitution, and it has not been respected because it is with the National Audit Office. But I believe if it is with the National Assembly, then definitely it will be respected, because we also as voters will ensure that this thing is happening, and then they can question them, tell them that, why do you allow 100 million to be spent on this? Why do you allow 50 million to be spent on this? It has to come through your from your approval. Why are you doing this? And then you can call them and ask them why. So I believe it is important. It is making it more participant. Yeah.
And Sumana, is there anything that you want to add on to what MS has just spoke about these particular provisions under the draft?
And Sumana.
Well, it seems Ansumana is not getting us.
Yeah, I am.
Yes, okay. Let's just proceed. I mean, we're still looking at the finance and, of course, revenue, budget, and all that. Knowing the fact that the National Assembly has a very critical role as far as the budget is concerned, MS, you have a key interest about the issue of budget. Now, the current draft, unlike the current constitution, that's the 1997 constitution, the draft constitution has enabled the National Assembly with more time to scrutinize the budget estimates. So instead of the 14 days now, it is now providing like 60 days. Is that enough? MS?
Yeah, I think that we have a civil society, we have a coalition called Civil Society Coalition on Budget Transparency. We were thinking that, like, if you look at other countries like Uganda, the Ugandan model, it gives more time to the nationals, to their parliamentarians, to scrutinize the budget by involving those that they represent. You understand? And then Uganda is a bigger country. It's bigger than the Gambia, and they have more population than the Gambia, and they have a bigger national assembly than the country, the Gambia. So I think Gambia should definitely learn from those kind of countries where the budget is much more participatory. Not just coming and then, because we know that the budget is the most important policy document in every country. The budget should be pegged on the national development plans of every country, whereas it will give time for people to understand the budget, for people to know these figures, where what is going to where exactly, and then what are the needs of the people and the priorities of the people. So this is, I think the 60 days definitely is not even sufficient. I would have thought that probably 90 days, that is 3 months, 3 months, whereas the National Assembly members will take this budget document, the estimate, to take it to their constituency level to tell them that, this is what is happening. And then you also have specific, tell them how is the budget linking to their livelihood, how is this budget important to their, what are they getting from the budget? Because well, Ali, obviously
Exactly.
people don't respect the national budget, they cannot connect. And then the
Yeah,
budget is
I think you've made a very valid point here. For example, in countries like Uganda, where, for
yeah,
example, I mean, the priority areas come from the people. I mean,
exactly,
in the case of the Gambia, the budget is more about, it's just from the top.
yeah, top, exactly,
In, in,
top.
in most cases, it doesn't represent the true aspirations of the people down there in the village, in Basse, in Badebo, in Nyomi, and
Yeah.
even in Jara.
And then they just do, sorry, before Asumana comes, you know how they do things, they do projection, probably some of these projections are not actually the actual figures that they're giving on the ground, the reality, because we know that there is a problem in data in the Gambia. If you want to get data in the Gambia, it's a problem. So government just estimate, they do projections, when they are trying to create the budget framework paper, where they look at the economic outlook, the domestic economic outlook, and the international economic outlook that has impact on the Gambian economy. So I think sometimes those projections probably are just intellectual projections. They would just think, but not, probably a fact finding, a reality that probably some of the projections, yeah, but some of them, if you talk to experts, they will tell you these are just projections that they do, and then it's just copy and paste most of the time. That is what they will tell you, that probably the GDP will grow 3%. How do they get that 3%? Do they involve the people to know their earnings within a particular area of jurisdiction and make it a reality? So probably maybe Birkama is engaged. So Savannah can tell us maybe.
Well, Asman, what's your opinion?
Yes. Yeah, I just want to highlight one thing, because I know we have about 30 minutes before this will end and we have a lot to discuss, Aliu. That is with regards to the time that is given. This has been a common concern every time that a budget is being released in the Gambia, that people would want, there you hear a lot of noises, you hear a lot of comments, you hear a lot of complaints and all that. So it is going to be very, very good enough time, so they are able to go back to their constituency, like MS just highlighted, discuss with their constituency that this is what is happening. Let me be a bit biased here, because, I am so much into youth issues, that, MS said that the youth population in the Gambia will comprise of about 64%. That is, if we are right. So when you have a budget that is being placed before anybody, we need to understand that that budget must at least address at least 64%, of youth issues, or let me say it has to address, more about youth issues. We have seen that, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, for example, I think we would all remember that mostly they would have the lowest budget, when it comes to a lot of things. When you put up your queries, the only thing that these people will tell you is that youths are found almost in all these ministries, but you need to also have funds that are good, so that are supposed to be there for youth empowerment. In the Gambia here, for youth empowerment to be done, people are relying mostly on these external projects that are coming into the Gambia. What is the government doing for the young people? We talked about the National Assembly. There is nothing that has to do with youth representation, and this youth representation has to be perfect. So these are some of the lapses that we have, and if we have National Assembly members that might be looking at this, and maybe if I also have engagement with my National Assembly member, these are some of the things that I will table before him.
But
that
it is good that it,
we need to look at the budget.
and so, man, you're talking about the issue of
Yes,
the
yes, Ali.
youth representation. I believe, man, it's good that now it is created in the draft constitution, and then we hope political parties, will respect that.
Yeah, hopefully they will. Hopefully they will. We have seen political parties that had actually, put this as part of their constitution. But if it comes to the reality, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So MS gave very, very good points here that could be very key.
It's quite interesting because we know the parliament, I mean, as people representative, no doubt, they will always have an oversight function. That's anywhere you go around the world, the parliament is quite very important. But when it comes to the issue of checking on the National Assembly, is something that people are really worried. For example, if you look at the current draft, I mean, it appears certain things are not even clear. For example, under section 154, it is saying that it has not prescribed how long a bill should stay in the parliament. Time is necessary for instance, if you have a bill that is very important, and then there is no timeline given for how long a bill should stay in National Assembly. For example, as we speak, we have bills in the parliament that have been there for how many months now? Since December. MS.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even
serious. The access to information bill and so many other
no,
bills.
it baffles me. Whenever some of these critical bills are delayed, and then look at the Amendment Act. This is the amendment bill for the local government.
Yeah.
It doesn't take time. It means some of these politicians, anything that favors them based on their political parties, most of them, I'm not saying all, but we've seen the trend. I look at the the extension of the state of public emergency that was brought, that a motion that was brought before
Moved
the
by
national.
Justice Minister.
Exactly, it took them how many hours? 48 hours just to say yes or no. And then this was about looking at the country's emergency situation. Look at the access to information bill, look at the anti-corruption bill, look at the bill about the disability bill. These are
Yeah.
very important bills that definitely would have come and then tabled before the National Assembly. And even the current bill, the constitutional promulgation bill, I think it should be giving a prominence, definitely. But I don't know why some of these bills, are not giving prominence. We understand that it has a proceedings. The National Assembly goes through their standing orders. That is, when a bill comes, they move it to the relevant committees for scrutiny, and then they will bring the report to the whole house, and the whole house will probably debate on the report, and then probably move it also. But we know that definitely. But a bill should not be dragging for months. The anti-corruption bill, we would have
The,
expected
the,
that this bill, the
the,
access to information bill, would
we will
have been
bit bias. Yeah, the access to information since December. I mean,
exactly since December, 1 year almost. Right. So why are they dragging? So I think the draft constitution, the National Assembly members should look into that provision to ensure that at least they put a time limit. I don't know how they will do that, but definitely it's important to definitely look into this bill. Some of these bills are fast track, but some of these bills they drag. So I don't know
so
why, but
meaning their pass also need to be checked.
exactly, exactly,
They're
exactly.
gonna be
And
given just that big pass,
and
just to have the pass to oversight.
Aliu, how we can also enhance that is to develop a scorecard sort of, where the constituency will develop that culture of scoring their National Assembly members. You understand that, okay, why do you give prominence to this bill, and then we can score you to based on your interest, based on your performance in the National Assembly. With that culture, I believe the National Assembly will not, because they will think that if I don't do this, my people can recall me. If I don't do this, my people can vote me out. So why am I wasting time? So is the people versus your party interest and versus your I don't know. So but this thing is very important to ensure that people score their National Assembly members, so that they
as I said, it would have been interesting if Honorable Sulayman Saho was on the platform. He will have told
yeah.
us what he thinks needs to be done to ensure that their paths are checked actually. But unfortunately, due to internet connection from where he is in Badibu, he couldn't continue being with us.
Yeah, yeah. Ali, let me just give this recommendation probably to the International Republican Institute and also to most of the civil society organizations that we have in the Gambia. They should take this onus upon themselves to ensure that they do these scorecards. Let them go around to all the constituencies in this country. Let them do a tabulation of all the things and then put a score for it, and then make it public to the people that these are some of the things that are happening in the constituencies. With that, we will understand that most of the National Assembly members would be on their toes and they will do the work as expected. Because some of them will not want to be shamed. I know people will not want that terminology, but the fact is that most of them would not want to be shamed. So if you put a scorecard that you will later put to the public, everybody would want to have the higher score. So it's going to be more of a competition, between constituents and National Assembly members, because everybody would want to be doing the right thing. Alio.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because we're still looking at the past given to the parliament, how to check it. For example, if you look at the draft constitution, it has granted the National Assembly the power to determine, guess what, their salaries, their emoluments. I mean, we don't even know. I mean, do you think there's an independent committee sort of to review their salaries and not just the parliament to determine their own salaries and emoluments? MS.
No, I think the National Assembly definitely. If you look at the Gambian National Assembly, it's the least paid National Assembly in the whole world. I can say. If you look at other National Assembly members, um, they are paid. If you look at the Kenya, we don't want to be like Kenya probably. Who are paid in a lot of like with lot of money. But National Assembly definitely they should be paid. They should be giving cars to ensure that they do their stuff, and then they should
But
also. No, I understand. I will
but,
come to
but, but
that.
then but then but then the fact is that the draft is silent as to how much should be their salary and emoluments. So if they are to determine their own salaries and emoluments, what do you think of that?
Yeah, but
MS,
you have to also.
Let me, without any, disrespect to the National Assembly, I am not sure if they are supposed to do that. Take an example from yourself. If, for example, you are to determine the salary that you would be paid, would you even be fair to the people? Forget about the issue of saying that.
He's love for money.
No, I think one thing that we also need to put into consideration. No, let me
Yeah,
just
stop.
finish this. I think one thing that we
Okay.
also need to put into consideration is that the pay scale of the Gambia itself is not good. So you cannot have that
That's
huge difference between National Assembly and the people. If you would want to give the National Assembly members good salary, how about the teachers that are working in schools? How about our nurses that are facing difficulties, especially these trying times? You're giving them close to nothing. You cannot have people in schools that are teaching and then at the end of the month they receive less than $100. It's not fair.
Yankuba.
So I think
I'm
all this
saying
needs to be
Yankuba.
put into
But
consideration.
I'm
It's
sorry.
not just about the National Assembly receiving small. It's the entire country
Yeah.
that's receiving small in that aspect.
Yeah, Ansumana, I understand that situation. Now, someone is telling me I was having a chat with someone. He's a Gambian but working internationally. We were chatting. He said, "Do you know why the National Assembly, people who are more competent, are not going to the National Assembly, are not leaving other jobs and coming to the National Assembly?" I said, "Probably they don't just want to go into politics." He said, "No, is because probably I will not leave my job that where I will have money, probably a good pay, and come to the National Assembly." Well, we've seen a lot of people who have sacrificed for the country and who can do that for nothing. I'm not saying I understand that you're talking about the teachers. If institutions are there and they are working, definitely Gambia, all these sectors will have good salaries, and they should have. I respect that. Teachers should be paid well. There should be a minimum standard in the salary system. You understand? But now, National Assembly, they are guided by, I think, probably three principles. That is the interest of the country. You do it. You represent people to the interest of the country. You do it based on, consents, guided by consents, and also respect of the rule of law, for the rule of law. You understand? These principles are very key. Now, if you look at the National Assembly, definitely, and you know that the context, the cultural context, if you talk to National Assembly members, they will tell you every day people will come and tell them that I need fish money. I have a funeral, a burial ceremony, and I want you to do this. I have a naming
Ceremony.
ceremony. You understand?
MS, let me not cut you short, Ali. But I think the point here is that the
How
National
much they should
Assembly
pay.
should
That's
not
the
determine
point.
as to how much
The
they should be
draft
paid.
is
That doesn't make
silent on
sense to
that.
me.
And then
That does not make sense. That is not even fair. The draft is silent on that. So something needs to be done on that.
The
No,
draft is very clear on this thing.
yeah, I think definitely they should, probably they should have a committee that will look at it. But also we have to understand this: the National Assembly should be strengthened. I believe that they should be strengthened when it comes to personal emoluments. Wait, when did the National Assembly members start having cars? Even those cars are in questions.
MS, yes, it's obvious. It's
That's
obvious that
what
the
I'm
National
saying.
Assembly,
How can the National
they
Assembly,
should have certain entitlements, that they should,
and some
privileges
of
that they
these
should
National
enjoy.
Assembly
Those things are very okay with me. But the thing is, we need to agree that there must be a body that should determine as to how the National Assembly should be paid and some of the benefits that they should have, and also
okay,
put this, into consideration that, you know, the way political parties would select members to be, their representatives at the National Assembly, we need to also review that. Sometimes you would want, you are better than someone, but because they think that you have sacrificed for the party, even though you don't have the technical know-how, they prefer having you at the National Assembly and putting everybody at detriment. These are all things that will, forbid people from running for certain positions. But definitely they should have those privileges. But for them to determine how much they should be paid, that should be out of the fray.
Yes, I mean it's quite interesting.
but
To be
but
honest,
now but
MS,
now you are talking about the National Assembly members. You understand? But look at the executive. If you talk about the National Assembly, look at the gap. Look at the privileges. A minister is much more respected than a National Assembly member. You understand? A minister, you will have a utility car. You will have your own security. You will have probably some of these allowances that the National Assembly members don't have.
Yeah, but
And then
even with
you
all that, even with all that, ministers still do not determine how much they are paid. This is written, and it is somewhere that this is the amount of money that ministers will receive. So the National
yeah.
Assembly, as people that make laws in the Gambia, should make that very clear on the constitution that this is
So
what the National
determine
Assembly should be paid and
now
all
who
that.
should
The privileges that
now
they
who
should
should
have.
now who should
Yes.
determine that? Who do you think should determine? Because if you look at the judiciary, they are also an independent body who just make their budget, and it goes straight to the president, and then the president don't alter anything, and they don't change anything.
yeah,
But
maybe MS we can have an
you
independent committee.
personally, this is what MS yourself said. You recommended that we have an independent committee that will look into some of those things. But the
Exactly.
National Assembly, you cannot determine how much you should be paid at your workplace,
I
MS.
agree.
It doesn't make
I
sense.
agree. But now how will you, probably there should be a committee that will look into that and then bring it to the National Assembly, but it has to be reasonable. But I understand, the National Assembly members are guided by principles, as I said earlier. It's not just they are people's representative, and then we all know that anything that is reasonable in the Gambia, we know as well. You understand? We know Gambia is struggling, and then we obviously know that our debt, if you look at the debt service, is 121% of the GDP, which is so high. And then every time the government is taking more loans. We understand that, but the National Assembly members should be given, certain privileges that they can that can help, that can facilitate
I
their
agree. I agree. I
execution.
agree. I
You
agree.
understand? So can
Yes,
you compare a minister to a National Assembly? A
not
member,
in
a
the
member.
Gambia. Not in the
Okay,
Gambia, especially the
okay, it's
privileges
quite
that they have.
interesting.
Yes, Ali. Yes, yes.
Now, MS, now, looking at all these things, looking at the powers given to the parliament and the executive, do you think it is well balanced?
Yes, I think
Because if we look at it, for example, the president can appoint ministers, but the National Assembly must confirm the appointments. The president is responsible for international relations, can negotiate international treaties, but the treaties have to be ratified by the parliament.
that's
The
fair.
executive
That's very fair.
emergency, but everything is it's like the part of the
No,
executive
no,
is
it should be
running
like
with it.
that. It avoids impunity. It avoids. It creates the avenue where you have check and balance. You understand? We've seen what happened. This constitution. You have to also look at the intention. That is, why are we having a new constitution? Is to correct the past. We've seen where the executive has so much power that um you know um are you getting me? Are you getting me? Ansuman and oh my guys, it seems they have gone. Okay, the National Assembly has so much power that definitely the it can do, not the National Assembly, sorry, the executive, and then it leads to dictatorship, where the president will just give a declaration and it is a law. You understand? And the president can just hire and fire, and the president can just bring monies, and then they will not be accounted for in the country. I think the National Assembly, the powers, definitely it's very important, because the executive is given that privilege to go and then negotiate. They are the custodians of the funds. You understand? That's power. If someone gives you the fund of the whole nation and then also give you the mandate to craft policies, to direct to have that mandate to talk to develop policies towards the development of the country, to have certain powers to appoint, to have certain powers and privileges to travel on behalf of the country, that's power. You understand? So I believe that the executive should, this power is very important, but executive is arguing that they should be having power to even dissolve the National Assembly. You know, so which is another thing. So I believe it is very important. Checks and balance between the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary is very vital. And then I think this is very important. We've seen even um, powers given to the executive even in the current constitution. Look at troops, national troops, national troops
Yes,
going.
MS,
Aliu, I'm not getting it.
I guess
Aliu, Aliu is gone. I'm trying to say that.
Yes, yes. I think Aliu is gone.
Yeah, he's gone. So what I'm saying is, look at the national troops. That is the army, the national army. Whenever they should go out for peacekeeping, it has to go through the National Assembly for approval. But that is not happening. The executive will just, do what they feel like to do, and then they will just go, and then which is a violation of the Constitution. Is there in the Constitution? So I think it is important that the National Assembly is given power, the executive is given powers to ensure that there will be no dictatorship. We don't want to go back to those days. You understand? So I believe in a fair play for both the executive, the judiciary, and also by extension the executive.
Yes, I think the biggest concern here has been that the more powers is given to the National Assembly compared to the other arms of the government. This has been an issue in the Gambia right now, and if you have a debate with most of the people, but for me, like I told Ali when we started the program, that this is something that is okay with me, because if you give powers to the National Assembly, it's like you are returning power to the people. because these are direct
Exactly.
representatives of the people. So for me, this is very okay. But I know this has been the complaint point of most of the Gambians, you know.
But if you can recall a National Assembly member, then obviously they will be careful on what they do. They will be careful on things that the decisions that they take on behalf of the Gambians. So I believe it is important that to give powers to the National Assembly and then also give back powers to the people, which the Constitution has stipulated that sovereignty lies on the people, from which all organs of government derive their authority from. So I believe that the power given to the National Assembly is normal. So these are powers that National Assembly members should have. If you look at the UK, in UK, in mature democracy, the executive, that is the prime minister and his government, cannot take some certain important decisions without going through the parliament. If you look at a clear manifestation of the Brexit, how many prime ministers failed. If you look at the first prime minister during the Brexit, and then the lady who came, and then now you have this current prime minister, because of vote of no confidence, through the parliament, and then they can her proposals cannot go through, and then they have to vote her out. So I think, this the power is normal. This power
Yeah,
is
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think Aliu is back. Yes, Aliu.
Aliu, you can take your steer again. We are not getting you, Aliu.
Aliu, your
On
mic is your
I am
mic is
because
yeah.
okay. Okay, I am
yeah.
back. I am back on. I am back on. I think I was muted by the host, so I don't know.
Okay, you
Yes,
can go
what
ahead.
I was saying, we just have few minutes. We have like just 5 minutes remaining before we wrap up this town hall meeting that we are having here on Kerfatu. Of course, as I said, it is supported by IRI as part of the efforts just to ensure that we discuss, we engage Gambians on this very important national document. And I think today's program has been very, very interesting. We've been focusing on the past and the responsibilities of the executive and the legislature, knowing the fact that these are two of the three arms of government which actually run the government. And then, MS, before we wrap up, what will be your final statement? And then, next to Ansumana.
Okay, thank you very much. I think my final statement for this program is that the the people of the Gambia from various constituencies should know the constitution, what is in the constitution, and also engage their National Assembly members, because this is a chance. This is a chance. I repeat, this is a chance for the Gambia to strengthen their democracy, and also it's a chance to make sure Gambia develops for good. So people should definitely understand this constitution and its importance, and also those that are trying to give a wrong impression of the constitution should definitely try to justify, because if not, you will try to confuse the people, and then we've seen people who are saying even freedom of consent, freedom of this and that is subjected to, or people will be given more rights, to do whatever they feel like to do. We have to understand this, and we have to try to put these things into context. Probably in the Gambia, people have diverse. It's very obvious. People have diverse opinions, but people should understand the importance of this constitution. Overall, the constitution is progressive, and then people should hold their MPs accountable. Right now, they should know the importance
Accountable.
of this process. Yes, they should move
Because
them.
they play an important role, because as I said, next month it is going to be at the parliament, and then people
Exactly.
really have to go after their MPs now and tell them the importance of this document, and then the need for them to support it is quite very
al
important.
al bula la député noma topaleen sen député yi jokke député ji moɗɗin
Ndewe député Jimon.
dewe député ji moɗɗin xam nga, so I think boy wako si séeréer boy wako si séeréer
Yeah, well. Oh yeah, but it seems Ansumana is gone, and then we have come to the end of this program. As I said, this is a town hall meeting on the draft constitution. Of course, here on Kerfatu and supported by IRI, International Republican Institute, and then as I said, my guest today was Mohamed F. Ba, Ansumana Kamara, and Honorable Sulayman Saho, who was actually with us at the beginning of the program, but because of internet problem from where he is in Badibu, he couldn't continue with us. And then, we thank you all for watching this program. And then we hope, we will all go after our MPs to make them understand the importance of this document when it comes to the parliament next month, September, when the parliament resumes sittings. And, from there, because it's make or do, because if the parliament doesn't approve this thing, then there won't be any there won't be any referendum. And then, so meaning then, time, we will need more time than, to consider this draft constitution. So on behalf of my of me, Aliou Cisse, and my panelists and everyone who was watching, we thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you
You
so
can join
much.
us next Saturday. On this platform again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Merci.